I'm Brian London.
And I'm Johnathan Ford.
And on this week's Ford News, we spend most of the time talking about Trump's nominees for different positions in his White House. Some of them crazy, some of them surprising, some of them shocking, and some of them just flat out of left field or beyond. We'll talk about that and more right now here on Ford News. Hey everyone, he is Johnathan Ford. You can follow him on X at FordJonathan5. You can follow me on X at Miami Radio Beast. Now, Johnathan, before we get to the show, both of us have set up shop on Blue Sky as well. So where can people find you on Blue Sky?
It's basically the same tag. You can just go into the search and pull up Ford News.
Right.
But it is actually Johnathan Ford at bsky.social. But it's got the same Ford News logo. And the page name is actually Ford News. So it's the same as X, same look, same profile look. So you could just follow Ford News right there on Blue Sky.
Yep, and I am Miami Radio Beast on Blue Sky as well. Come and join the party. People are, before we get to what we're going to talk about tonight, people are saying, Blue Sky, it's the liberal Twitter. No, it's not. It's just it's the Twitter without the bleep holes. That's what it is, right? I mean, it's just like, when I'm on X and I make a post that people disagree with, there's a good chance I'm going to get some sort of you bleep hole as a response from someone. On Blue Sky, it's a little calmer and nicer, and for us to have a little bit of a conversation.
And I find it kind of refreshing because even when you post things factual on X, even though sometimes I just turn the conversation off on X just so I don't have to see the hundreds and hundreds of replies. Even on factual information on X, the type of replies you get is "you're an idiot" or slang, some type of derogatory comment because they have nothing else to come at you with because the post that you relayed to your followers or to those that are viewing it is factual. On Blue Sky, what you get is more of thank you for the information. It's a lot more easygoing. Even when people do disagree, even on post, it's a friendlier conversation with the disagreement to where it's like more of friends communicating back and forth with each other. So it's just a great relief to see that if you want a relief from X, then that's where you would go as Blue Sky. But Ford News, and I know Brian is definitely going to stay on X. We're going to continue to post. Yep. We're going to continue to do our normal thing on X. We're here for the fight. We said on the last podcast that we're not going anywhere. So we'll be here for however amount of time sitting here just posting the facts and on the podcast speaking about what the actual truth is from the Trump administration or other news going forward.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of the Trump administration, this week, Johnathan, President-elect Trump has filled out the list of potential nominees for cabinet positions and other leadership roles within the White House, and a lot of them have been eye-opening. Now, there's been a couple that, listen, I'm not going to agree with on policy, but it's a sensible pick if you're into that sort of thing. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of Marco Rubio, but, that seemed like a decent pick if you're into that sort of thing. There's a couple other ones that were okay, such as Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor, what have you. And then we started seeing the craziness happen, right? We started seeing the Kristi Noems of the world and the Tulsi Gabbards of the world, and of course, the Matt Gaetzes of the world. Oh, and let's not forget the weekend host from Fox, Pete Hegseth. We can't forget about him. Now we're into crazy world. That's where we are right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I obviously the three that are the craziest for me are, of course, RFK
RFK
Jr.
Jr., right?
Uh, yep, Pete Hegseth
Yep.
and Matt Gaetz are obviously the three that kind of stick out to me just because of the allegations that have been out there. Of course, Matt Gaetz with the recent controversy versus the House Ethics Committee and the House Ethics Committee that was set to release
Yeah, the report
this
was supposed to be
Friday. But of
released
course,
last Friday.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, last Friday. But of course, his resignation, and now the House committee has actually threatened not to release that, or the House is. The Senate, though, is actually stating. And some Republicans, according to ABC, have come forward and basically said that they will not confirm Matt Gaetz without that House Ethics Committee. And some of them are saying that they wouldn't confirm him anyways. And anybody that's wondering what this allegation is, the allegation is basically that Matt Gaetz, Joel Greensberg, who was actually a buddy of his that was convicted of 11 years in prison for basically sex trafficking. The allegation is that there's eyewitnesses confirmed by the attorney for these eyewitnesses that Matt Gaetz allegedly had sexual relations with minors and used and brought illegal drugs to this party. So that's the allegation. You have RFK Jr. that had allegations regarding a babysitter. You have Pete that had this allegation back in 2017 through an investigation that was confirmed by local police department. That basically there was some type of sexual misconduct that we learned, I believe, late last night. Confirmed by multiple media sources and also by his own attorney that that particular allegation was actually paid off. Not that he's admitting to any wrongdoing, because they come out strongly that he did absolutely nothing, that it was consensual, and all this, but that particular allegation was paid off at some time after that because he was fearful of being fired from Fox News. So that's the three that stick out to me. We can go to Tom Hooman, who's another one that sticks out to me, who is one of the authors of Project 2025, has extreme views. But we'll go through even more of this as we go on. But just like you, Brian, I think there is a couple there that, if regardless of how you feel about policy or how you feel about Mark Rubio's statements regarding the Gaza Strip and Israel, whatever side you're on, or if you're like myself and Brian and just want peace for both parties involved,
That's for sure.
and you want, yeah, for both, and that's the end result you want. But Mark Rubio basically came out and stated that pretty much that to give Israel the power to basically level the Gaza Strip, because Hamas is hiding among citizens, and that gives Israel the automatic authorization to do whatever it is they need to do to end it quickly, which is completely different from even the Harris stance, where the Muslim community and other communities were placing the Biden administration for this blame of what was going on there. But Biden administration and Harris were the only one talking ceasefire. And Marco Rubio specifically asked if he would call for a ceasefire, and he said no. But yeah, we'll get into more of the cabinet members and more of these allegations that have come forward in a little bit more detailed as we continue on here.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a step back, because there's all sorts of allegations. I just want to, for a second, the 35,000 foot view of a lot of these nominees is they're completely unfit for the job in which they're going to be nominated for. I mean, Kristi Noem as, head of Homeland Security, she has no background in that, right? Tulsi Gabbard for the director of national intelligence, she has no background in intelligence. Also, she may be a Russian asset, just saying. RFK Jr. for health and human services, he has no background in medicine other than his vaccination thing, which we'll get to later on in the show. Again, Hegseth, I mean, he was a major in the armed forces. I appreciate his service, but certainly has no ifs and he has no idea about managing what I believe is the largest employer in the country, at like 2.5 million people that work for the Department of Defense. And it's just and Matt Gaetz. I mean, yes, he got a law degree. He practiced private law for like a blink of an eye. Other than that, he's never prosecuted anything. He's never done anything in a courtroom. He has no business being the attorney general. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I have a theory on all of this, but I just want to get your thoughts on Trump nominating people that literally have no experience for the position for which they've been nominated.
Completely mind-boggling, and it just shows up the depths in which he will go is what I've been telling people, and it's basically loyalists. It's people that are gonna do what he asks without any regards to whatever ethics it might break or whatever laws that it might break. It's definitely, and on top of just how he wants to go to get these confirmations pushed through, just shows that there's a sense of urgency out there for him to get these people in place. But it's completely crazy that we've come to a place in the United States to where we have so many different allegations, so many people. Like we have the director of national intelligence, Tulsi, who basically, even by Republican standards, up to a year ago, was calling her a Russian asset, just like you had basically have stated. But a lot of these, I mean, he's appointing his own attorneys to White House jobs or key roles. He's appointing people that donated directly to his campaign that have now going to sit in key roles in his administration, because these are people that are going to do whatever it is Donald Trump says, and he's going to get very little pushback. And that was one of our talking points throughout the podcast for the past months, is that in 2017 through 2021, he had people that knew how to govern, and he had certain checks and balances, even within the White House, of people that would not do whatever his request was. And I am concerned that these people are just going to cave whenever Donald Trump wants something done.
Yeah. So here's my take on all of this. And you can agree or disagree. But, as I'm, watching all the talking heads, as I'm reading articles, as I'm, on X, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on all the social media, TikTok, everyone is kind of taking a serious jab at all these nominees by, pointing out this, pointing out that, they don't have this, they don't have that, this person has this conflict, all of the stuff, right? But the bottom line is Donald Trump doesn't care, because his mission has nothing to do with actually properly running the government of the United States of America, because the people that are really pulling the strings, like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, have such a distaste for the government of the United States of America. They want it all to burn down. They don't care about any of these departments. They don't care about, the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense. They don't care about national intelligence. They don't care about any of it. They want it all to burn down. They want King Trump or King whoever, and none of this means anything to them. So none of these appointments are actually serious considerations to, hey, let's operate the government in a certain way that'll, be better for all of us. No, it's let's just give some people some jobs because we have to, but we honestly do not care how these departments run or what happens with them. We hope they all fail, because we don't care about the future of the United States of America as a constitutional republic. We want an authoritarian government led by Herr Trump. That's what they want to do.
I think that was well said, and it's definitely a threat, and just like multiple Democrats have come out and said that this is definitely going to be a test of our democracy, just like what was said leading up to the election. Jamie Raskin even went even into more details of just how much these are yes or no people, and that not getting Senate confirmation and pushing them through recess appointments would definitely test our democracy. And I think some of the fears that all of us had leading up to the election, even after the election, is what will the transition team or the nominees look like for the Trump, who is the projected president of the United States come next year, what that looks like. And we're starting to see a glimpse of how horrific these picks actually are, and how much of they have no talent as far as in the respective job that they were picked. Like you pointed out, Pete, even though he's had numerous years of military service that we'll definitely give him credit for. But for the past 8 years, he was an anchor for Fox News. So it's definitely going to be troubling. And we just started, like, we're not even on day one. The Trump administration, I don't believe, has still signed the ethics agreement that basically was signed into law by Donald Trump himself. It was actually written by Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Ron Johnson. And he still hasn't signed that up because he was supposed to start getting briefings as of last Thursday, intelligence briefings, but without the signature on the ethics, that can't move forward as far as the transition. And Jamie Raskin also hit on that without that ethics agreement signed, it's going to be very, very dangerous for our democracy. We're talking about a man who is indicted for classified documents, and now he's got cabinet members that are going to hand these documents over to him willy-nilly, and he's going to have all of these legally at his disposal. And he's got people like Mark Rubio and Tulsi and RFK Jr. He's got all these people that are just going to hand these documents or hand this intelligence right over to him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the president can do whatever he wants with classified information. He can declassify information, and he gets all the classified information, right? In the president's daily briefing every morning, someone from the intelligence service comes over and briefs the president on everything going on as it relates to intelligence and the world. And the other thing,
pop-up book with colors.
Yeah,
Might be a pop-up book with colors, but
exactly.
He still gets the briefing.
Yeah, and the other thing is the whole, hey, none of our nominees are going to be background checked by the FBI. We're going to have our own people do it. So, that's fine. Okay, sure. I'm sure that's, yeah. I mean, listen, if you don't want I know you don't believe in the FBI because, God forbid, because they investigated you and you don't like them because of that. But, God forbid we have nominees that go through a background check by a government agency, because that's what we do. But evidently
we do that for class. Yeah, and they do that for classification, right? So they want to dig in there and see if any of these people that he nominates in key roles or cabinet positions, what type of classification they'll get or what type of classification they qualify for. And we've seen that even with Jared Kushner, who didn't classify or get qualified for all of the classifications as far as classified documents when he served in the last administration as an advisor. And that's what the whole key to the background check is. And it kind of seems that Donald Trump isn't going to care about who gets what classification or cleared for that classification. He's going to just kind of willy-nilly it all the way that he wants to, just because he believes, even though it's not the truth, that the Department of Justice and the FBI was out to get him, when the fact is he committed those crimes, and the people that he's appointed now helped normalize him committing those crimes.
All right, we've got a lot more to get to on this edition of Ford News. Coming up after the break, we have to dig into some allegations about some of these potential nominees that are more than disconcerting about what they've done in their personal lives. We will do that and more on the other side. You're listening and watching Ford News 1. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Johnathan Ford. I am Brian London. You can follow us on all sorts of social media. You can find Johnathan on X at FordJohnathan5. You can also look for him on Blue Sky. Just look for Ford News. You'll see the logo right there. You can find me on everything at Miami Radio Beast, everything you can think of between X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok, all the same handle. So go and find us there and spread the word about the show. Hey, if you're listening to the show right now, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching the show on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube page, hit the thumbs up, and make a little comment. Tell us how we're doing, all that stuff. Johnathan, we need to get into some of these nominees because three of them in particular have some pretty serious allegations against them. What are we talking about here?
Well, if you want to, it's really hard to start just because there's just such horrific. But we can start off with basically RFK Jr. Basically, a former babysitter accused him in the 90s of sexual assault. Her name was Eliza Cooney. She accused him of multiple incidents in the 90s. It was actually 1998 and 1999 of sexual assault and unwanted advancements towards her. And this, of course, went on for quite some period of time where she basically states that there's multiple incidents of this happening. RFK Jr. was eventually asked about these particular allegations and whether they happened. He didn't deny or deny them or claim that they happened, but what his response was basically that everyone has skeletons in their closet in a particular interview that I watched, but never ever made any other comment outside of that. But the allegations just for that particular moment seemed pretty explicit. Like Cooney stayed at the job for a few more months. She stated after experiencing damage to her confidence, diverted her from environmental work. At the end of her diary, Cooney wrote that the list of things to leave behind in 1999 with the bad men at the top. So basically, she it definitely damaged her even on the mental state. And that's what it just seems like RFK has also had a history of doing just with women, where he's been accused of having upwards of 30 plus affairs on his ex-wife, who at some point after a lot of these affairs were written in a journal, she had taken her own life. Of course, these affairs are all allegations. We want to make sure that people do their own research and come to your own conclusion on these allegations that are out there for everybody to do their research on. But it just shows what type of person that Trump is willing to hire. And then you got Pete, what's the last name again? Here, let me go to it.
Yeah, it's Hegseth.
Hegseth, thank you. Pete Hegseth, who in 2017 allegedly had some type of a relationship. The girl is actually calling it sexual assault and misconduct. But we do know just off of Washington Post sources and other sources that they went together. They were holding hands at some point. But according to her, that the advancements were definitely too much, and it led into sexual assault and sexual misconduct in 2017. This has been confirmed by the local police department, that did not, of course, go into details on this investigation, but just said that the investigation did take place. Now, what we have learned from the attorney for Pete, they do deny these allegations of actual happening. Of course, they call it consensual. Of course, like all victim blaming, that in my opinion is that they then blame the victim, that she was the aggressor. that she was the one that came on to him. But the attorney also agreed and came out publicly that there was a sum of money that was paid to this young lady, basically to keep her silent. And the reason the attorney said that they actually made this payment wasn't because there was any guilt on his part, but that he was afraid that he was going to get um, fired. So, I mean, that, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that, around that time is the Me Too movement really coming into prominence, and
Sure.
Hegseth has said, or his attorneys have said, that because of the Me Too movement, he thought that he was going to get fired from Fox if these allegations got out, and that's why he paid her off, not because he did anything wrong, but
Right. Yeah.
So there's that. And then, of course, we have our friend Matt Gaetz from just the great state of Florida, where I'm living right now. Now, granted, Matt Gaetz is his district, or his former district, I should say, because he's not a congressperson anymore, is as far away from me as you could possibly get in the state of Florida, but still in the great state of Florida, as we said. Now, what he has been accused of, what he has been investigated of, what the FBI has looked at, what the House Ethics Committee has looked at, is not too flattering, is it?
No, not at all. And let's be clear, like right away, like the FBI may not have pressed charges, and Brian and I were kind of talking about this off the air. They may not have pressed charges, but they also didn't clear Representative or former Representative Matt Gaetz of any wrongdoing in this investigation. According to sources, the reason why the FBI didn't bring charges is because they found his one of his best friends, or his best friend at the time, Joel Greenberg, who was a cooperating witness to the Justice Department for sex trafficking probe into Representative Matt Gaetz, was sentenced to a total of 11 years by a federal judge in Florida, and they found him non-credible.
As a witness, right?
Yeah. So, and this is regarding to where this is going to lead up to, is that then the investigation basically switched over, or was going on at the House Ethics. And then basically on June 18th of 2024, and this is after the FBI had basically come forward and said that they were not going to pursue charges against Matt Gaetz, the House Ethics Committee on June 18, 2024, basically came up with had new evidence into the probe into Matt Gaetz, reviewing allegations of sexual misconduct and illicit drug use. This was reported originally by AP. The committee also announced that it was reviewing, or basically had three eyewitnesses that state that they seen these sexual allegations of Matt Gaetz with a minor that they believe was either 16 or 17 years old at the time. That this sexual relationship did happen with the minor, and that there was illicit drug use. We also have the lawyer for these particular witnesses, just like we did for Pete, come out publicly and state that the House Ethics Committee needs to release this report because of the allegations and the eyewitnesses that he says the House Ethics actually has and is in their report. So Matt Gaetz, of course, resigned on, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Brian, I can't remember the exact day, but I know it's one of those 2 days after he was given the nominee nudge by Donald Trump as Attorney General. I can't believe I'm even saying this in the same sentence. Attorney General. And he resigned, and instantly, if somebody is or could be exonerated of any wrongdoing, they would definitely want this report to come out. But the House leader or speaker, Mike Johnson, came out immediately and stated that this should not be made public, that this is inside the House. Representative Jim Jordan, of course, had to come out and say that they've never released any type of House ethics reports to the public, which is absolutely false. The House ethics report has been released multiple times because as they're sitting. But it just seems kind of funny that Gaetz, to eliminate the possibility of this report, resigns back down to just a citizen. And now you have the House trying to muzzle this report, while the Senate is asking for this to be made not necessarily public, but the Senate is asking for them to have this before the confirmation hearing on Matt Gaetz.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on all of this, right? Well, one, I talked about in the last segment that Trump doesn't really care who's running what, because the goal that he has is to burn it all down. But he specifically doesn't care about sexual assault or sexual misconduct allegations, because he's the guy that said, you can grab him in the what. And also, E. Jean Carroll, right? He owes her a little bit of money for sexual assault, and he keeps saying things about her, because of course when he doesn't care about his own actions, he's not going to care about someone else's actions. Jonathan.
Correct. And people that don't, if you're just listening, you never heard about the E. Jean Carroll case. I believe the monetary judgment for defamation right now is at $88.3 million.
Yeah.
But the part that is why he was found liable, it's because it was taken to a civil court case, and he was found liable unanimously by a jury. And the reason, another reason, like, people are talking about, like, how is this case, not to kind of get off topic, but how this case was even brought, it's because there was a large spread accusations within the prison system of sexual misconduct, rape, to where the district attorney's office and judges offered a 1-year time span for these victims to come forward with these allegations in a civil lawsuit matter. And that's where E. Jean Carroll, otherwise, it's possible, and according to her testimony and letters that she'd given, while talking with psychiatrists after all this happened, she was planning on actually going to her, let's say, deathbed with this particular story, or with these with what happened to her, where Donald Trump forcefully penetrated her and was found civilly liable for these actions. So it's like Donald Trump's did it, Matt Gaetz allegations of doing it, RFK Jr.'s allegations of doing it, Pete's allegations of doing it. So it's like a continuous revolving door within the Trump administration that will take office in 2025.
Yep. Just
unbelievable.
Craziness all around. All right, we're going to take another break. On the other side, it's our favorite segment we do every week. It's the Ford Fact Check. We'll see what Johnathan is fact checking this week. Right after this, you're listening and watching Ford News. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Johnathan Ford. I am Brian London. We would so appreciate it if you're listening to this or watching this. Just subscribe to whatever media source you're watching or listening at. Whether it's the podcast, subscribe there, the YouTube, subscribe there, and spread the word. Tell your friends. Say, hey, go check out Ford News. We're doing a good thing. And we are working on being able to go live and talk to you folks live every now and then, or maybe more often. So we'll come to you with more information on that. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, just slide into my DMs. You know where to find me on all the socials. Just slide right into my DMs. And we can give you all the details on that. Johnathan, it's time for our favorite segment of the week. It's time for the Ford Fact Check. All right, Johnathan, we've talked a lot about RFK Jr. this week, but he has, more going on in his head than just a dead worm or whatever is going on in his brain. And also the sexual allegations. RFK Jr. has some notoriety around another subject. What are we talking about here?
So what we're referring to, Brian, is that RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been 100% denounced by his family, and his family has come out and said that he basically is a disgrace to the Kennedy family and bringing shame to their father's name, has repeatedly stated that COVID-19 vaccines, that they cause autism. While this is a 100% complete myth, it's a flat out just a lie. And a lot of these studies came out in 1998 that basically stated that MMR vaccines caused basically that caused autism. But those type of studies were eventually, of course, retracted by those particular sources. You can actually go to the healthandchildren.org to find studies that prove that the multiple studies that debunk the myth that vaccines cause autism. You can actually go to the University of California, that's UC Lind, that basically debunks the fact that COVID-19 vaccines cause autism. The misconception that the vaccines cause autism is a myth. As basically what the University of California studies finds. It has confirmed through numerous studies over decades. COVID-19 vaccine had been supported by
wait,
numerous studies.
Johnathan,
Yeah.
I just want to take a time out for a second. We're not just talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. We're talking about RFK Jr. believes that many vaccines cause autism, especially the MMR vaccine, the mumps, the measles, rubella vaccine, which, was debunked a long time ago. And where that came from, actually, was there was a British physician, Andrew Wakefield, who authored an article in the Lancet, which is a medical publication back in the 80s and 90s, that basically, and he said that he fraudulently claimed that the MMR vaccine caused autism. It was vehemently proven to be false. He later said he was wrong. He has been completely removed from all acts of being a doctor, and it was all made up. And somehow from that, a bunch of people decided that, it was vaccinations that caused autism, even though there's literally no scientific proof of this. And RFK Jr. is one of these people that believes that. So there you go. We have a guy that may lead the Department of Health and Human Services that, just doesn't want your kids to get vaccinated. So welcome back the measles and the mumps and rubella and all these diseases. Why not bring back polio?
Yeah, and what we have to understand is that while MMRs and even the COVID-19 vaccine, there's no research that indicates that it causes autism. This misinformation could also affect vaccination rates in individuals, and of course, disability, people with disabilities. So what we had found, and what we had also seen through multiple sources, is Robert F. Kennedy's anti-vaccine stance has actually also impacted people like in Somalia, where there was a vaccine rate of about 70 to 75%. This decreased to about 30%. And there's multiple doctors and scientists in the Somalia area that says that RFK Jr. directly led to the deaths of numerous people, including 83 of those children, because of his anti-vaccine stance, as far as where it comes to that they're unsafe, when, according to even the University of California, they had basically stated that MMR and COVID-19 vaccinations are 100%, that the vaccines are safe and effective and way to abuse the immune system against harmful viruses. And the likelihood for the viruses, or for these vaccines, to have any negative impact on the short term or long term with humans protecting themselves against viruses, having any negative impact is very small and slim. They do recognize that, of course, with any vaccine or medicine, there is going to be some side effects, but these side effects are far less, and getting any type of virus far outweighs the side effects that you could possibly have.
Yeah. So listen, always talk to your doctor, do your own research about any kind of medical intervention, including vaccinations. So, there you go.
Don't take horse dewormers.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, try to follow the science, and don't listen to the people on the podcast. Trust your medical professional. That seems to be
Correct.
something that you should do. But before
Yes.
he jumped into the ring to run for president, he he led a anti-vax kind of organization, and as you talked about, went over to Samoa and with his Children's Health Defense Organization, and basically got with their anti-vax people, and they made a big case. Hey, don't get your kids vaccinated, and then 83 kids died. Now, whether you can directly correlate those deaths with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I'm not sure. All I know is spreading lies about vaccinations is probably something that should be disqualifying for being the director of Health and Human Services or the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But in this case, Trump loves it. He's going to do great things.
Yeah, right along with. Uh-oh.
What happened?
Hold on. Nothing. I just my whole computer screen went black for a second. I don't even know what that was about.
Right.
But yeah, right along with eating McDonald's on a flight with Elon Musk and I believe Mike Johnson was in the picture. Donald Trump was in the picture, and of course
Donald
Donald
Trump
and Jr. was in the picture. Yeah, and
Junior
they're all
Junior
there.
loves his nuggies. So, make sure he
He
gets
probably
them.
he probably got the kids meal. But here the thing is this the one thing I do want to say that RFK Jr. that I believe personally that he's right on is the amount of preservatives that we put in our
For
food.
sure.
That needs to definitely be reduced. But then yet he goes on a picture with, of course, inside Trump's plane with all these people eating some of the most preserved food that you can think about and smiling for the pictures. So that he may have a legitimate thing with preservatives and foods, but the majority of his conspiracy theories are just outlandish, along with the bear in Central Park that was outlandish, the story about the whale head. It's just the guy, I do not believe is not even mentally fit enough to hold office, not alone with all these allegations, just the outlandish things that he comes up with. Just like I believe he made a statement, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, that the COVID-19 was actually that was meant to target the Jewish and Black community, which is basically where a lot of people kind of turned their heads kind of at it a little bit. And of course, later he cleared up his remarks. But he just makes off the wall statements.
Yeah, he's definitely he's out there to say the least. By the way, can we just talk about the hypocrisy of MAGA when Michelle Obama had a bunch of initiatives to make food healthier, especially for kids and school lunches. They get your hands off our food and don't tell us what to eat, and we can eat as unhealthy as we want. But now that it's RFK Jr., oh yeah, we need to eat healthier and all this stuff. It's so hypocritical. It's ridiculous.
Yes, there's a lot of hypocrisy. It just happens that it just seems like when one party does it, the next party does it, and that's just one of the incidents. But even through just speaking with people, if Biden or Obama or even especially Harris, who the standards were, I believe, were much higher for her than pretty much a lot of the politicians in the past. That she had to be absolutely perfect to win over people. Um, but the hypocrisy would be is just like if there's any little scandal that goes into the Democratic Party about anyone, it's on news 24/7. But we're at a point now to where crazy things like Matt Gaetz, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Being appointed to the Trump administration barely even bats an eye now. Like it's just like a little segment about all the conspiracies or the craziness or those allegations, and then we just move on like it's a normal day. And that's what fears me the most is that so many people are getting used to Donald Trump and more used to him from 2016 to where in 4 years, it scares me to think about what happens if he does get the ability with the Senate and the House to run a third term. What if they change the rules to where he's able to continue to run elections? And people might think that we're talking crazy or anything like that, but that's how a lot of these dictators started, or a lot of these overthrowing of governments or normal democracy actually starts, is chipping away at it little bit by little bit. And not to mention just the allegations. Let's just bring up Elon Musk just real quick before we close here, Brian. I know we're getting close to the time here, but we have Senate Democrats that basically sent a letter to the Pentagon. I don't know if you read this. It was either yesterday or the day before, but the Senate Democrats sent a letter to the Pentagon asking for an investigation in Elon Musk as far as his business contacts with Russia, and then also his conversations with Vladimir Putin, while Elon Musk basically has government contracts with the U.S. government and going to hold a role in the Trump administration come 2025. And what we learned is that Elon Musk had these shadow conversations to where nobody really knew that they were going on, but it came out that he was having backdoor talks with Vladimir Putin during the conflict with Ukraine and Russia. So yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was going to say, and let's not forget the shadow foreign policy Elon Musk is, trying to have with as he has meetings with representatives from Iran in New York.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just multiple craziness that they're just coming out, and then just one other story that I just want to just bring up. And this may not be very popular for some of the viewers, but I am very appreciative of President Biden today giving Ukraine the authorization to do strikes inside the sovereign nation of Russia. And yes, Russia is a sovereign nation, just like Ukraine is a sovereign nation. Then they should respect each other's borders. And I had been talking about this. I think Biden was late on it, but I do appreciate the Biden basically stepping up and giving them permission to do strikes within the sovereign nation of Russia. I appreciate, I believe other countries also followed pursuit with this as well. I believe France is on board. I believe Germany is on board to where now they're giving the green light to Ukraine to do strikes within Russia. And U.S. was originally the only holdout, I believe, that was stopping from this actually happening.
Well, Ukraine has been striking in Russia. Specifically, what Biden did, Johnathan, was missiles. Now allow Ukraine to use U.S. long-range missiles that they had given to Ukraine to strike Russia. So Biden is basically allowing Ukraine to use missiles, long-range missiles that the United States had given Ukraine to strike inside Russia. Obviously, it's a tough balancing act for the United States because they don't want to obviously provoke Russia any more than they have to, but also the United States should and does believe that Ukraine has the right to their own sovereignty, as you've been talking about.
So President Zelensky, I believe, should take 650 of those and launch them tonight, right at every government facility, right at every Russian government military base that's inside of Russia, and launch all of them right towards those facilities. And I know it sounds really harsh for somebody that's anti-war, but Ukraine has suffered enough. And I think it's time now that the people, and I know this sounds tragic too, but the people of Moscow have to feel some of what Ukraine has gone through. And maybe that will start to turn the tide in Russia.
Can we maybe have them take a few shots at some of the places where the Russians create, half the misinformation that's on X and all the other social media sites?
Yeah, I'm sure there's multiple targets out there, and I'm sure they got U.S. intelligence as far as what targets. I'm sure they're not going to just, even if they did shoot or when they shoot off these long-range missiles, I'm sure it's not going to be just off of their own intelligence. It'll be U.S. intelligence, probably U.S. intelligence from multiple NATO members that will make sure that whatever targets that are directed at that are hit, to where the least amount of casualties from civilians are felt, unlike what Russia has been doing to Ukraine as far as scatter bombs and just launching them at hospitals, hotels, restaurants, gas stations, anything with civilians inside of it. That's what Russia has targeted. And that's why I'm to the point now to where I just think that we need to support Ukraine and taking the conflict right at Russia on their soil with long-range missiles. And I believe there's an actual chancellor, or could be soon to be chancellor. I forget his name, Brian, but he basically stated that if chancellor, he would also give Ukraine a bunch of different missiles. I actually posted about his name, but I just can't quite remember his name. But I'm very thankful, back to the thing that President Biden has now gave President Zelensky and the Ukrainian military the approval to do long-range strikes with missiles that the U.S. government has given Ukraine.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, that's going to do it for us this week, Johnathan. Listen, we've been through this before, right? Not our first rodeo. Whenever Trump is around power, you're going, even when he's not in power, but he's coming to power again, there's going to be news breaking every day. There's going to be fires to be put out every single day. And those of us here at Ford News will be here for our audience to take them through all of it. So we appreciate all of you for listening and watching. Make sure you follow us on all the socials, and we will see you next time right here on Ford News.